Hello, and welcome to Half the Year in Hell, the podcast for the ones who are made to carry what wasn't theirs. This is a place where we speak from the underworld and help you make your way on out.
This podcast is for educational purposes only. It is not a substitute for therapy. We are licensed therapists, but we are not your therapist. This podcast is for education and liberation, not diagnosis or treatment. Some episodes contain strong language and content related to trauma. Viewer discretion is advised.
Hello, and welcome to episode 2 of Half the Year in Hell. I'm Aunge.
I'm Sasha.
And this is our podcast about being the scapegoat. So today we came up with a case example of an imaginary client. It's kind of a composite of different people that we've experienced, some stuff from ChatGPT chopped in there, just like a little bit of everything. We'll push your nose ring in.
Thanks.
Yep. So before we get started, I was feeling a little bit anxious, and Sasha, I think, might be too. So Sasha's going to lead us in some somatic exercise.
Is that me? Am I Sasha? Who am I?
Dissociation.
Yeah, so I'm thinking about if we can just ground ourselves and breathe. And right now I'm feeling really anxious. We are going to talk about a client, and we're not going to talk about a specific client. We're going to talk about somebody who we sort of made up that was experiencing a lot of the things the way people who are scapegoats come in experiencing.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things we're going to talk about today is the somatics of it. And so I thought it was really important for us to get in our body. And, you know, we were saying on the last episode that Aunge and I are both scapegoats. And so for that reason, what we're doing feels really subversive.
Mm-hmm.
And so we both have had a lot of anxiety as we've talked about this. Also, it's very hot here.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's probably hot everywhere right now. And also, you know, global warming, hell, who knows the difference? So I'm thinking about if we can just ground into our breath. And I'm going to have us take 3 cycles of breath. And before you even start with the breath, I'd like for you to maybe try to close your eyes where you are if you're not driving, if it's somewhere safe for you to do so, right? And get your feet ground down into the ground, allowing yourself to feel supported by the earth. Maybe you're checking in with where your stomach and your tummy is, right? Those lower chakras. And you're bringing your breath all the way down. And so the first thing we're going to do is inhale. 2, 3, 4. Hold. 2, 3, 4. Exhale. 2, 3, 4. And if you can try inhaling again, and this time if you can really focus on bringing the breath in very slowly and bringing it all the way down to those lower chakras. So inhale, 2, 3, 4. Hold, 2, 3, 4. Exhale, 2, 3, 4. One more time. We're still going to kind of bring all of the breath way down. But the other thing that we're going to do is going to be mental and emotional. And so we're really going to try to focus on imagining that as we're inhaling, that it's taking our brain out of fight or flight, and that we're getting really calm, and that oxygen is just really helping us actually remember where we are and what we're doing, and that we're safe right now. Inhale, 2, 3, 4. Hold, 2, 3, 4. And exhale, 2, 3, 4. So, yeah, welcome to the podcast. Welcome back to Half the Year in Hell, a podcast for scapegoats and scapegoats. Let's chop it up.
We have to workshop the chop it up part, but I liked everything else.
Okay.
So the client that we have coming into our office is a 32-year-old Black AFAB. AFAB is assigned female at birth. They are a programmer and they have been diagnosed with anxiety. They're also presenting with some OCD symptoms. They come from a religious background and they are currently questioning their gender, hence the pronouns. They are also experiencing some physical symptoms along with their anxiety of hair loss, difficulty sleeping, and panic attacks. And as clinicians, as we're sitting here and we're listening to this person talk, we're picking up on some of their cues. The first cue is that they're speaking very quickly and they are giving a lot of detail. So not just like, oh, whatever, too much detail, like I was about to do in this conversation just now. Um, they ask a lot of, they ask a lot about whether or not what they're saying makes sense. So I don't know if that made sense. Does that sound right? Does that sound weird? Those kinds of questions. One thing that we notice is that they are speaking positively about others, but not about themselves. And then there's a second.
Yeah. So I'm just, thank you. So I'm thinking about this person that is a scapegoat and how they're having an experience that is like affecting them psychologically.
Yes.
It's affecting them emotionally. It's affecting them physically.
Yes.
Also. Yes. And it's something that shows up in all those areas. And one of the reasons why we wanted to do the case vignette was because we noticed that yesterday when we were trying to make the first episode where we were talking about what is a scapegoat, what happened is it became really hard to describe because it's such a huge thing that affects your life in so many ways and affects how you show up in the world, and it affects systems, that it feels like a really big topic for us to tackle. And so we thought yesterday that maybe one of the things we talked about was like marginalization, right, last time, and how people with marginalized identities often become scapegoats. But having a marginalized identity doesn't necessarily mean that you are a scapegoat in your family system. And I think probably one of the things we talked about was like we were going to start with just talking about it from a narcissistic family perspective and then let it get a little bit bigger. And so, when you are a marginalized person, you are more likely to be a scapegoat in society, right? But also marginalized groups will also scapegoat somebody within the group. So identity alone is really not enough to tell you whether somebody is the scapegoat. It can be a clue, but it's only the beginning of it, I think.
It's only the beginning.
And so what I'm hearing you say when you're saying the vignette and you're talking about all these things that a person would be going through in this situation, it's that it has all those aspects. It has the psychological aspects. It has the emotional aspects. It has the physical aspects. And those are the things that we really see that show up, that let us know that someone's a scapegoat. And it's interesting because most of the time when they come in, they are wanting you to tell them what they've done wrong and what's wrong with them. And so I wonder if you would just say more about that, or whatever you want to say.
Yeah, I think that this comes from the perspective of watching clients go through it. It's coming through from their perspective of watching both of us heal and like my own personal experiences with being the scapegoat. But I think that what ends up happening is your reality is so invalidated in just like everyday existence that when someone comes and tries to align with you, and you have the self-concept of always being the problem or always being the person that creates chaos or always being the symptom bearer, as what we call it in therapy, right? Is when someone, Percy.
I'm going to get the dog.
Okay.
You can go ahead.
Is when someone comes in and you try to align with them, they've been so invalidated and they have not been able to align with their own experience that sometimes they just like drop out of therapy. Another thing that ends up happening is if you validate them too soon or if you align with them too quickly and not with the other people that they're talking about, is they'll start to get really angry with you And sometimes that can kind of manifest in some abusive behaviors towards the clinician.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, they get angry when you align with them. Sometimes they get confused when you align with them.
Yep.
Sometimes they feel sad and they're crying when you don't align with them.
Or when you do align with
I mean,
them.
when you do align with them. All of these things, sorry, yes, when you do align with them. And I'm thinking about how, like, it happens, sometimes something else happens.
Mm-hmm.
They start getting healthy and they actually do start to align with themselves.
Mm-hmm.
And then they're mad at you because they're like, back then, why didn't you tell me? And it's like, if I would have told you, then you probably wouldn't have left.
You would have dipped.
Uh-huh.
You would have dipped.
Yeah.
And it's one of those things that happens when you're a new clinician and you're trying to figure out how to get someone out of an abusive environment. Like, you have to learn how to kind of like sprinkle what's happening and not do too much too soon. Like, there are some people where you can just go in and you can say, hey, this is what you're experiencing and this is what's happening. And they're like, okay, cool, bet. But oftentimes people will come in and you'll let them know what's happening and they just kind of like shut down. And then they just like never make another appointment, or they start missing appointments until they drop off. Yeah.
The other thing that stood out to me in the vignette was like the part about how they were talking so positively about other people, but not themselves. Uh-huh. And they're like, I'm a terrible person. I need you to help me become a better person. Mm-hmm. So then when you align with them, they're like, no, you don't understand what I was trying to ask you. You're confused. You don't understand me. The problem is me. Mm-hmm. And I need you to explain to me about why I can't seem to get this right, mm-hmm. or why I can't be a better partner or a better sibling or a better child or a better employee or a better friend, whatever. Mm-hmm. And I've already explained to you what's going on. Mm-hmm. Everybody else is perfect.
The other thing that they do on top of like making everyone else perfect and making themselves just like the fault of everything is they tend to not give you a lot of details about the person that's showing up and being really abusive. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So you'll be sitting in session and you'll be like 3 sessions in and you'll be like, this person keeps talking about James, but like, I don't know anything about them. And they've been talking about them for 3 sessions.
Yeah. Because when somebody is usually talking to you about someone, you start to form a picture of the person. Uh-huh. And I think that really what's happening is they're not connected to their own experience, right? And we're talking about the somatics again now. Mm-hmm. Like, they're not in their body. They're not connected to their own experiences. They're not connected to their own point of view. Mm-hmm. And so when they're explaining something to you, mm-hmm. and they're trying to explain to you that the person is a good person or whatever, it's like there's little tells. Like, one thing is the person is... they don't seem like, even though they're talking about how great the person is,
you don't feel it.
You don't feel it. They still look sad while they're saying it. And you don't feel this like happy feeling in your body that you usually would get when the other person is really happy. Mm-hmm. And so you're just like, why does this feel foggy? And it's because they've been relying on everybody else's word about who this person is. Mm-hmm. And they're thinking, well, everybody else told me that the sky is purple, mm-hmm. or green, even though I'm observing it to be blue. Mm-hmm. Y'all must be correct.
Uh-huh. Mm-hmm. Well, because eventually, like, it's the idea of having a flying monkey, right? So for those of you that don't know, a flying monkey is kind of like the Wizard of Oz, where she has like the evil minions. So the Wicked Witch of the West is supposed to be like the head narcissist or the head toxic person coming for Dorothy. And then she's got like all these like winged, just like dominions. Dominions? Is that the word? I don't know.
I think she's winged things that she's got dominion over. Sure.
Thank you. Okay. Uh-huh. That'll work. Uh-huh. And like, they're just kind of like swooping in and they're like, to complete the metaphor, they're like gassing up the narcissist and they're doing their evil bidding, and like in real life they're emotionally gaslighting you and telling you that your experience isn't real.
Yeah, so I see what you're saying. So if this is like a narcissistic family system,
yes,
a narcissistic family system, what you're saying is there's one usually narcissist or two. Mm-hmm. And then every other person is supporting the narcissist, mm-hmm. and they're supporting the narcissist in the fable that the sky is purple. So all these other people are gaslighting you. So now the whole system, everybody has a role in the system. So not everybody in the system is necessarily a narcissist. Some of them are narcissists. Some of them are these flying monkeys that are supporting it. So everyone around you is colluding in the lie.
Yeah. So when you're surrounded by a bunch of people, and again, they're telling you that the sky is purple and you keep like seeing the sky being blue, it gets really confusing. It's just like, what perspective should I prioritize? And is there something wrong with me that I don't see the sky being purple?
Well, yeah. And then I'm thinking about the other piece that stood out to me about it was the anxiety and like some of those OCD symptoms that the person was having. And like the hypervigilance that it comes from you, like always watching what somebody else is doing for you to know whether you're doing the right thing.
Yeah. And you know, it's really interesting. So you were talking about like this intuitive part of therapy where sometimes like we can kind of like intuit what the person is feeling because we also feel it.
Yeah.
So if you're feeling angry and I'm like, hey, like I'm noticing that I'm feeling this like gross feeling in the pit of my stomach and my jaw is clenched. Like, is this what you're experiencing? What ends up happening is you get confused while the client is talking to you because their nervous system has been knocked offline.
Yeah.
So you're like, what is this person feeling? Like, is this person like, is there a certain diagnosis that goes with this? Am I like reading this incorrectly? Like what is happening where I'm like kind of like going into my own scapegoat role and like having to ground myself to figure out what's happening. And it just kind of like goes to show like that we're not supposed to be in fight or flight all the time. Fight or flight is supposed to be a response, and it's supposed to be like a quick burst of energy, but it's not something that should be housed in our body, and we shouldn't be hypervigilant all the time.
Yeah, I like that you're taking us kind of into this part where it's our own experience of the person, right? And so I think about the person like this little bunny. You know, we have this bunny that comes in our backyard all the time, and I'm always so afraid that it's going to get hurt or something's going to happen, right? And so I think about like a little bunny hopping, and if there was a landmine in my backyard, and the bunny is like the client who has been scapegoated, and you are somatically experiencing all of your hearts beating really, really fast because you're watching them, and you're like, I don't want to startle them. I don't want to make them go closer to the landmine. I don't want to make them hit the landmine. I don't know what to do. And so you as a clinician are also like repeating your own trauma, and you're trying to hold this space between like, yeah, I want to tell you that everybody around you is kind of an asshole. But also I know that cognitively, I'm going to throw your system into shock. And you're probably going to shut down because that's what humans do when challenging your reality. So I'm trying to let you know what's going on, but I know that I'm majorly challenging your reality.
Yeah. Yep.
And the other thing that happens too that I'm thinking about is when you start asking them about the person that you're suspecting is the narcissist, because now you've had this like empty feeling around the person, is like, when you ask them questions about the person, they're very vague, or they'll say like, what do you mean? Because they think that it's really obvious because everyone around them has made it that it's obvious that this person is the way that they're wonderful. What do you mean? They're amazing.
It doesn't occur to them to describe them in more detail.
And it also doesn't occur to them to question anything the person says or does.
Yep. You know, I think the other thing that ends up happening when you're asking them to describe the person is like people will kind of like zone out and they'll dissociate, and you can kind of like see them leave for a little bit.
Yeah.
And when they're done talking about the person, or when you shift topics, or when you're like, hey, I noticed that X, Y, and Z has happened, you like kind of like see them coming back into their body. And it's just like, oh, so you're just like not in your body at any time. You're just like completely floating around and like this like hypervigilant state, but also the state of like, I can't see anything because if I see something, I might get in trouble for calling it out.
Yeah, so you've got these parts that are dissociating, so you don't actually see what's happening. So it's like you have this very unfocused gaze. And I think that is another way that you sometimes can tell that someone's a scapegoat. I think about how we look back at pictures of ourselves and how we've talked about how you can see your lights were out in previous pictures when you were in a narcissistic system. And I think it's interesting how much more clear and direct the gaze is in more current pictures, because it's like I can tell that Oh, okay. I'm actually here. I'm
Mhm.
actually present. My lights aren't out anymore.
Mhm.
Hmm.
Mhm. So when it comes to this client, what else is like popping out for you in the vignette? Like, what are some things that you would notice to kind of like hone in and say, okay, this person might be the scapegoat. What data do I need?
So we talked about the anxiety
Uh huh.
that's happening, but I think also the physical health symptoms.
Oh, like autoimmune issues.
Uh huh.
Uh huh.
Uh huh. I think like what makes me passionate about working with scapegoats
Mm-hmm.
systemically and yeah, systemically,
Mm-hmm.
is that larger systems and smaller systems, is that I started to recognize a pattern between the roles that people have
Mm-hmm.
and what kind of illnesses they seem to have and how it shows up in the body. I
Yeah.
just started noticing
Mm-hmm.
these different patterns and also like how they carry themselves.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I just observed the more I began to work with people. And I noticed that I also was having some of the same symptoms
Yeah.
as my clients
Yeah.
and that had the same lived experiences. And of course, like correlation is not causation,
Mm-hmm.
but still, there's a lot of things that I notice
Mm-hmm.
physically.
Yeah, I think we can definitely take anecdotal like information into account. Like that's part of being a therapist, right? Like everything that you kind of like intuit is not always something that's researchable or documented.
Sure.
Sometimes it's just like, okay, I'm in my body and this feels weird, right?
Right.
But it makes a lot of sense. Like when you're talking about people who are like losing their hair, like in the vignette, people that are having a hard time sleeping and they're practicing good sleep hygiene and they're just like up all the night. You're talking about people that have like autoimmune issues like lupus or like things with the thyroid. You're talking about people that are um, just in general, like having their adrenal response go on the entire, like you can tell that they never turn it off. Like they're kind of like darting their eyes around the room. They're not really like stable in their body. You can kind of see their shoulders creep up.
Mm-hmm.
Like there's a lot of different ways to kind of like pick up on how people are manifesting their anxiety.
Uh-huh.
And one of the things that also comes up for me is for a long time, I thought that my anxiety was just anxiety. But recently I've come to terms with my anxiety actually being a manifestation of my anger and not being able to express it.
Oh, yeah.
Uh-huh.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
Uh-huh.
I think that's one of the ways that uh, uh, being a scapegoat takes a toll on our body.
Uh-huh.
And I'm thinking about how when I started working with people and started noticing this, right? Like first I started noticing a pattern,
Mm-hmm.
and then somebody who had some autoimmune issues came in and said, "Hey, let me tell you about this book."
Mm-hmm.
And so I read this book by John Sarno called The Divided Mind, and he talked about anger so
Oh.
much, and he talked about how anger manifests in our body.
Uh-huh.
Mm-hmm.
Uh-huh.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Do you ever like sit down with a client and like you either feel like your jaw's clenched or like something happens in your body? Sometimes, like I'm a very soft spoken person. So if I start speaking a little bit louder in session,
Mm-hmm.
and it's like, what's happening? Like, why am I getting so animated? And it's just like, oh, my client is angry and I'm starting to internalize their anger because I'm a scapegoat and like I'm like a sponge for emotions. And they
Uh-huh.
don't even recognize that they are like feeling anger towards the people that are causing them harm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I think like when we're talking about anger and we're talking about being disconnected from the body,
Mm-hmm.
and we're talking about like the cortisol response that happens.
Uh-huh. Having one right now.
Uh-huh. When you have been the scapegoat and you can't really be angry about anything, or
Mm-hmm.
you're told that this isn't happening, right? So when you're being told that this isn't happening, then you're like, why am I angry?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Why am I allowing this to make me angry?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
What's going on? What's happening with me?
Uh-huh. You know what it also manifests as sometimes is you'll have a client come in sometimes and they're like, I just got really angry and I brake checked that person, and like I don't know where the anger came from, but it came from somewhere. And it's
Mm-hmm.
just like, yeah, it's been building up for however long you've been in the system and like been silenced in the system.
Uh-huh.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and then yeah, there's like the weight of all the projection.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if maybe this is going a little bit too far. I'm going to try not to go far off on this tangent.
Okay.
But I'm thinking about like how also the anger can be a sign of their resilience
Oh.
because there's something in them.
Mm-hmm.
The self is what I call it, that is trying to be heard
Oh.
and is trying to wake up.
Uh-huh.
And it's, to me, the way that I've come to conceptualize it is like letting people really honor their anger,
Mm-hmm.
And I'm thinking about when we honor the anger, how we can listen to it and how it can be a boundary. And that it can be a sign to us that, because when we have those boundaries in place now, I can know the difference between myself and you. And when I have a boundary that lets me know the difference between myself and you, then it's safe for me, instead of me tuning constantly into your response and leaving my body unattended. Now it's safe for me to return back to me and actually know myself.
Ooh, thank you. I feel a little bit more grounded.
Yeah.
Yeah. My good friend Megan, who's a clinician I used to work with, said one time anger is unexpressed boundaries.
Uh-huh.
And like I didn't understand it at the time because I was still very much in my system. But like now that I'm like talking to clients, and like you have actually helped me access my anger since we've been married or been together. But it's just one of those things where it's just like you just kind of like have like this constant valve going nonstop, and like you're having to dissociate from what you're seeing because people are doing not great things around you, and you have to pretend not to see it. You have to dissociate from your internal experience because it's wrong. You have to dissociate from the fact that you're angry that someone has violated a boundary because your reactions are too much when you do finally like address what's been happening. And it's just like this really weird experience of like I kind of like describe it as like floating around in space, but there's not a spaceship around, and like you're running out of oxygen and like your little suit, and you're like, okay, but what am I supposed to do? I don't know what direction to move in.
Yeah, and I think when we're talking about anger, and we're talking about shame, the other thing that kind of stood out to me was that the person was from a really religious family. And so I'm thinking about how sometimes people in religious systems can cast a lot of shame.
Well, if you're supposed to be perfect, let's take Christianity, for example, and let's talk about like our understanding of Jesus, right? Which is like this perfect human being. There's like nothing wrong with this person. They're just always doing right, and like everything is perfectionistic. And you think about like aspiring to that and being Christ-like, and it's just like, oh, if I make a mistake outside of this, and like this is a very rigid structure that I'm following within whatever the belief system is, then like what happens if I'm not perfect? What does that mean? Yeah.
Yeah, I think for me, what it meant was hypervigilance. I think for me, what it has meant has been obsessions and compulsions. I think sometimes ADHD symptoms. I think anxiety. Yeah, and I think the other thing that I'm finding is coming up for me is like, it's interesting that I started noticing in this in my clients, and I noticed like I was also having a lot of allergies. Was the first thing that I realized. But then the next thing that happened was I started getting sick.
Oh.
And I kept getting like all these blood panels that were saying like my vitamin levels were low. And it was because I was having a huge cortisol response. Because as a person with all these multiple marginalized identities, I was being scapegoated in every single system.
Yep.
And then I ended up getting diagnosed with breast cancer.
Yeah. That was a wild time.
Mm-hmm.
That was a really wild time. Yeah, it's one of those things where I think part of the awareness that we're trying to raise around being a scapegoat is like, what does it look like for you to readjust the way that you're interacting with the system so that you're not getting sick? And so that you can hold your boundaries, or so that you can get away from the people that are putting so much strain on your body that your body is like, hey, I'm trying to warn you, I can't handle this. And then eventually your body's like, well, here's what's happening when you don't manage your like fight or flight, when you're always in hypervigilance.
Yeah, I think about you know I'm thinking about Gabor Mate also in his work.
Mm-hmm.
I want to say that it was in the myth of normal. He started talking about how a lot of people who have certain diseases, like he was talking about ALS, how doctors know, but they don't document this. But most people who work with people who have ALS knows that people with ALS are the nicest people. They're like super people pleasers.
Yeah.
And they're like so kind and overgiving. And I think that that is true about a lot of stuff.
Sure.
And it feels like the symptoms are the body's cry for help.
Yeah.
And it's like, go ahead and listen to us. And so one of the things that I have been experiencing with my cancer has been like the cancer being a call for me to come back home to my body and for me to set boundaries.
You know, I think that I really relate to that. I also have some health stuff actually that comes from being in chronic trauma. And I think the other thing that comes up for me is not just like the diagnosis of the health symptoms, but like the physical manifestation. Like I'm walking around and my neck is tight all the time and I can't get my neck loose. I'm walking around and my shoulders are all the way up here and I can't figure out why I have a headache because I've been grinding my teeth. I'm like walking around and like, because I'm not paying attention to my body because I'm dissociated, like my like foot gait is starting to change, or I'm not aware of like how I'm moving my body and my environment. And it's just like one of the things where it's just like you not only have like the physical health symptoms, but you can also like injure yourself and like cause your body harm when you're not housed in like your own experience. Yeah. Yeah. You know, I think the other thing that comes up for me when we're talking about this is kind of like, oh, I just lost my train of thought.
I'm thinking again, what was taking me back to was thinking again about aligning with people. And like trying to talk to them about setting boundaries. And I'm thinking about like, you know, how many times you had to try to tell me to set some boundaries that I really like wasn't ready to set.
Oh yeah, and the anger.
And like how people, yeah, like I got really mad at you. And that's what happens as a clinician, right? People get really mad when you tell them to start setting the boundaries, but you're sitting here telling them like, here's all of the physical evidence. Your immune system is starting to shut down. In order for your immune system to stop shutting down, you have to start saying no to other people and yes to yourself. But I'm thinking about like, I actually remember, and the reason why I wanted to bring it back to like my own lived experience of this is because just like I remember the amount of fear and anxiety that I had when I was coming back to myself, right? And I think about how when I've set a boundary, one of the ways that I can kind of start to gauge if I'm not really in my own experience enough to be sure if the person is narcissistic is like, do I feel a lot of anxiety about setting this boundary?
Yeah.
And after I set the boundary, am I still feeling so much anxiety? And is my system flooded for someone to even Talk to me about setting a boundary with this person.
Yeah, it's a really interesting response because I think that like you and I have had sometimes conflict.
Uh-huh.
And I'm like, what is happening where like Sasha's upset? Or you're probably like, what is happening where Anja's upset? And like you're kind of sitting there and you're trying to like get them to calm down and be in their body and you get them to talk through it. And surely enough, at the end of like the conversation, it's about, oh, this is a thing that happened that really made me angry. And like I felt like I couldn't say anything about it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a different form of projection, right? So we talked about the toxic people or the narcissistic people projecting before, but scapegoats can also project. And sometimes the projection is, I'm really upset and I can't tell why I'm upset. So maybe I'm upset at you because you're the person that's currently here.
And
right
also
in
the
front of
rules
me.
are I'm not allowed to be upset with so and so. So if I feel anger, I think that's what happens, right? It's like the person goes, I feel anger. I'm not supposed to be angry at so and so. And so therefore, since that is the rule and this person is perfect, anger, 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 where? There. On whoever's in front of you. And so it can be a very disorienting experience.
Yeah.
Working with people who are scapegoats and being a scapegoat. And I think the hardest part about it is that people are often like a scapegoat from birth.
Come out the lone scapegoat.
And so
yeah.
When you're talking about when two narcissists have a baby,
relatable content.
So like when you have two people who are narcissistic that have a child, or maybe there's some other trauma that caregiving is interrupted, then you have a situation where this person is now a scapegoat from birth, and this is what they know is their role. And you know what I was thinking about actually was caste.
Okay.
Like how this kind of creates a caste system.
Yeah.
But you're almost like born into being a scapegoat, right?
Yeah.
Like, so you're a scapegoat and you're scapegoating your family of origin. Everybody in your family has told you everything that's your fault. You believe them. So now the next thing you do is you go and you find a partner and a bunch of friends that confirm your worldview that you're a terrible person. And so now you're continuing to be scapegoated. So by the time you get to therapy, and you probably come into therapy because you're like, fix me. I'm here and we're talking about you are a person who is usually literally surrounded. And it's interesting because I used to think when I first started working with people, I would be like, oh, I just need to help them out of one relationship, whatever they're coming in talking about. But then I started realizing, oh, wait, most of these people I actually have to tell them, nope, everybody around you is bullshit. Like no one around you. Actually, yeah, everybody. Yeah, actually, all of them. That person over there too. Yeah, all of them. They're all bullshit.
You know, we talked about this a little bit in the first episode where it's like if you're a scapegoat in one system, you're probably a scapegoat in many systems. And it's so interesting because, like, one, you have a hard time recognizing that you're even in the scapegoat role because you're like, well, everybody interacts with me like this, so this is just my life. And I think another thing that ends up happening is not being able to imagine a reality where you're not centered as the problem.
Oh, gosh, yes. Yeah, you actually can't even imagine any kind of like anything for yourself. I think your ability to have imagination for yourself, not only is you're not centered as the problem, but I think the other part of the scapegoat role is being the fixer. So you can't really imagine yourself outside of a caretaking role.
And then you become a therapist. I don't know where the camera is or where to look. It's fine. But yeah, it's one of those things where I think that we have a hard time with understanding that there could be you just said that part, but like one of the things that happened to me when I was a kid is I would be like, what am I going to be like when I'm 30? And like literally my brain was blank
Mine too.
because
Mine too.
I don't know if I thought I wasn't going to make it to 30, or
Uh-huh.
like I just didn't have any self concept to be able to know like what direction I'm heading in.
Uh-huh.
Because like everything is about like supporting this narcissistic person's ego, or these narcissistic people's persons, I don't know,
Uh-huh.
plural narcissists like ego.
Uh-huh.
And I often think when I was in high school, I picked this career of being a therapist. And I'm like, how much of this was actually like a choice? And how much of it was just kind of like this natural gift of having to like survive this environment? And now I just have the skills that prime me to sit into a chair and listen to your experience.
Well, and also for me, it was like being in all these helping roles, and I've done all of them: teacher, social
Uh-huh.
services, now therapist,
Uh-huh.
um, parent, wife to
Mm-hmm.
AMAB, husband, all of those things,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like I think about how there was this like way that I was thinking something's wrong with me,
Yeah.
and I can't figure things out the same way other people can.
Mm-hmm.
So I actually need to go study therapy so that I can learn how to be a good person, just like I thought I needed to go study education so I could learn how to be a decent parent.
Uh-huh.
And I think I like read so many books so that I could learn how to be a good partner.
Mm-hmm.
Um, you're just like trying to figure out how to fix yourself and cleanse yourself
Mm-hmm.
and become more perfect.
Yeah, the question that I always had, or like the thing that kind of like always inspired me to become a therapist, is I wonder why people are the way that they are.
Uh-huh.
So imagine being in these systems where there's chaos all the time, you're being bullied, you're being abused, like you're having all these like not great things happen to you. And you're sitting there and you're having to empathize with your abuser, and you're like, okay, like what is the motivation behind the behavior? There must be some hurt, there must be some da 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 da, like there's something behind it, and I have to understand it.
Yeah, you want to know the why.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I think that this is a good place for us to stop.
Okay.
And I think we'll pick it up again in the next episode, talking about the curiosity of the scapegoat, maybe a little bit.
Ooh.
Hmm.
All right. Oh, thanks for listening. We'll see you next time. I'll come out with an outro. I don't know. We'll workshop it.